Morning, P. How was your week?
Oh, it was really good. Just kind of an interesting week. I had a lot of bullish setups early in the week that did pretty well. Bearish setup I stayed on was end phase, which just got obliterated, which was great. And yeah, Friday, I think the Bears were kind of looking for some continuation. Saw a lot of failed breakdowns there, and they reversed it all again. So that's kind of been the thing. You just have to um, avoid bias. I think that's the biggest thing, and be willing to, it's okay to be wrong, but don't be stubborn
Yeah,
and wrong,
yeah,
and just get out. And then some days, I mean, I I see like snow or something just doing well, and then it goes down 7% one day, and then it kind of comes right back. But that's where the levels are all about. It's actually easier to trade when it falls like that. So I kind of welcome that. And it's probably frustrating if anyone's trying to swing or is an investor, but you'll see our swings are very focused on particular sectors at particular times. So just working on navigating these conditions. They're a little crazy.
nice. Yeah, the AI plays pretty much paid the bills for me last week. Um, Monday, Tuesday. It's kind of a tale of 2 weeks for me. I know you meant Thursday by Friday, but I
Oh
picked
yeah,
up what
that's what I mean.
I picked up what you put. I did the same thing. It's tale of 2 weeks. Like Monday, Tuesday were really good, especially in the AI plays. Red day for me on Wednesday. Just nothing was working. But like you're saying you're wrong quick. Part of it for me was that I already had a decent week going and was in protection mode. So when I basically struck out in the morning, I just went and played golf. Just it's better to trade a little less than to be wrong trying to swim upstream on some of those days. And then Thursday, did okay with tell, but still I was kind of in a protected position. And again, the AI plays, but kind of the repeat winners. Saying you're wrong early, just like you were just saying, made for a pretty decent 4 day week, especially since it was back to that sideways or down stuff for the most part.
Yeah, and I think when I mean you play the upside. So when the market starts to sell off heavy, like a lot of times you'll just sort of walk away. I think what options traders do sometimes is they'll have a direction, like they'll try to play the upside because we've been seeing that lately, but and then we get a day like Thursday, but then chasing puts is bad when that happens because the market has been pretty resilient and it has bounced back. So if you got into some put positions late Thursday and then we're kind of counting on that Friday and you didn't get out right away Friday, you got burned pretty bad. So that's what's happening to a lot of the options traders on Twitter. So it's not just like they're wrong, but they managed to be wrong twice in one day. And so you gotta avoid that too. That's that revenge trading, FOMO, like all that stuff. So you miss some 6% move to the downside on something. Don't think that that's just gonna continue. You just sort of reevaluate instead of entering something.
Yeah, I've never understood like because I play a lot of time and the sandwich trades for me is playing for pennies, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
10, 15 cent move is just enough to call a good close trade. And, those do stack up. For me on the option side, it would seem like they would be a little better at that. But I'm noticing when it's sideways, they don't have a prayer, and a lot of those traders switch to options because that's just where the volume's at and the price is at for them. Um,
Yeah.
but they need the direction to be established. And I think that's why we see people get into coin late. A few weeks ago, that's why we always see people a little later than us on plays, is because they need the direction confirmation to trade. That's just part of what they trade, and then they take a little piece off the top, which I don't hate that, but
Yeah.
it's not something that's going to work in the long run because without like having more checks and balances like new sector rotation and stuff, That's not always going to be there. Right now, stuff is definitely oversold or overextended. The very few things have trends that are just continuous right now. And if they are out there, I don't see people playing T-Mobile and stuff like that. You know, they did hop on Apple, Nvidia when they were way down, and Tesla when they were way down. But people still trying to play Tesla up here. I don't really get it unless you're just a scalper.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And then a lot of the people on Twitter who want to, show expertise, and I can kind of see through this, but what they do is they'll set call and put triggers on everything, right? Which is fine. I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing to do, but they set them so far away from the underlying price that trigger's never going to hit, and no one's going to enter that trade. And then what they post instead is some scalp on SPY. They probably traded SPY, 5, 6 times. Maybe they, went 50-50. Maybe they, whatever. But they'll only post the winners, and they'll just be like, oh, the tone is that I adapted. I adapted to what was happening. But they're not sharing that part of it with any of their followers. So the followers are feeling like they're a step behind this guru. But what the so-called guru is really doing is just setting up a situation where they can't lose. And not only that, there's no timestamp they point back to, like that they called a great level or something. Their levels just aren't even relevant at all. And that's really common in a lot of these guys who, before those triggers like that, 3-4% above Nvidia, when Nvidia is going up 8% in a day, then yeah, that trigger does hit and that trade works. But that doesn't really work right now. The ranges are much tighter on most stuff.
Yeah, on share side, penny pumpers on the socials right now, they're back to just really tight finviz screeners, and I mean you can see right through it. In my opinion, I called one out on Twitter. It was pretty fun. Just ran the whole game plan down for him. He DM'd me and didn't really like it. um, but when they
Yeah,
start talking about um, God will judge me and stuff like that, and I have real friends instead of the stock. They're
yeah,
just
yeah,
caught red-handed. Um, but they look for those small floats, that they can create liquidity in. I mean, if it only has, I'm an under 7 million guy, but when you call something that has a million shares, and let's just assume 30-40% of that float is locked up, doesn't take much to move that. You just buy first and scream at the top of your lungs, and we're back to that on the penny side because they don't know how to trade anything else right now. It's just not, the volume's kind of not there. So instead of understanding the pre-market levels that this is probably where we're going to fade at and being able to take money, they go back to their wheelhouse, which is just finding something super liquid and pushing it. And I did mention the GF, but I believe it's GFAI because it is an AI one, but it's just that there's not enough shares there to really comfortably call it in this room. And then they run and people get attracted to it. But click on there with a full size position and tell me if you get filled, and then try to get out and tell me if you can get out, because
yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
work in your favor at all. So it's what I think it's one of the most underrated things I offer is keeping us out of those pumped small floats in this room, because I'm a 7 million share guy. I mean, I've said that forever. If it doesn't have that many, we're not playing it. It's just not. It's musical chairs. Someone's gonna not have a chair at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I on my side, I've gone after some of these people pumping these out of the money contracts, and the big misunderstanding that people have with that is that the pumper's moving the stock. That you can't move a $50 billion market cap
Yeah.
stock with some guy on Twitter. Like, so that it's the contract, not the stock itself. Like, someone was saying that about snow the other day. That, oh, snow's going up out of nowhere. This is a pump and dump or whatever. But there's way too many. The stock's way too big for that. But what does happen is 165C on snow has no reason double in value when the more in the money stuff is just moving more organically with the stock. So the scheme is kind of it plays out differently, but it's still the same thing. They're still front loading. They're still selling into their followers, and some of the guys who try to do it don't really do it very well. But the attempt is there. And with the on the option side, you can see their orders, like
Yeah.
exactly where they are
Yep.
and how they're lying about their entry and all of that. So I yeah, I see that stuff, and I kind of feel like I have to say something, just because I do trade options, and I just hate that whole aspect of the space. But there's a lot of that out there, and scammers get more desperate because the actual trading is not working for them. So we'll see more of that.
Yeah, I'm sure they have a share or a contract size they're looking for, like how many go through there. They get a good position of it, and yeah, just run it. It's
Yeah,
all a numbers game. I mean, that's where they are kind of smart, is they understand the
yeah,
numbers
yeah.
part of it.
They own half or three-fourths of the contracts out there, and then that does give them a lot of control over it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy. Um, let's hop into spy here a little bit quick early, because I'm
yeah,
just curious on how you feel about this doji on the weekly. Um, we were really close last week on the numbers. We'll go over that real quick. Um, so 405 the low, 411 the high. I kind of cheated on you because I let you go first and then said, hey, we only have 4 days. Um, but I was a little bit tighter on the top. We had the same 402 bottom. Didn't really get to the bottom. We're $3 off the bottom each, and then I was 5 off the top. You were 7 off the top. But I'm more interested in what you think about the doji last. I mean, it's literally 30-cent move in SPY last week.
yeah. I think it some indecision. Heading into a big week of Fed and numbers. What the unique situation right now is, financial services is still just kind of a train wreck, while tech is very hot. And then last week you also had um, healthcare come in, and those are some major names. Those heat maps you see, it's
Yeah.
J&J, it's UNH, it's LLY, and they had a huge move last week. And then energy had that pop early in the week, and then kind of obviously sort of cooled off. So uh, basic materials probably the most stable sector right now that I trade. But I'm going through all these just to say that this is what SPY is made up of. So that financial services is just like an anchor around its neck right now. And with bank earnings coming up, I think that's why we haven't broken out to the upside. But maybe as I had anticipated, I thought things would be a little better for the bank mega caps by now. So that's sort of what I attribute it to, more than anything.
Yeah, I was kind of I didn't. I mean, the market seemed pretty stable last week. Um, so yeah, it just kind of shocked me that when I went and looked, because I don't really pay too much attention to SPY, but when I went and looked in the week, I was like, huh, this is odd. Like we didn't really get a flush to the top, or especially after Wednesday. I guess my bias was like, SPY probably tested 400, and it just never really happened. It stayed that 405 was really strong on the bad days over here. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and yeah, and then the no upside whatsoever. I really don't know what it takes to move it to the upside. Like that's some days I see like let's just take Nvidia and Tesla. Like when they were running really hot, I just didn't see the correlation in SPY through that. So it's almost like you need three or four of them to move to really push it to the upside. Three or four mega caps to move. Um, on the healthcare stuff, I had so many like the rando penny healthcares in my inside bar scan that I noticed. So it's interesting that you said healthcare to me. I'm definitely going to look into that because there was a ton. I mean, it was just ridiculous how many they were staying inside their range um, during the last week. Not, I mean, usually it's like more bios, but these were actual like healthcare ones. Like I don't know how to explain them, but they're like the healthcare companies that are um, focused on a certain thing, right? Like let's say like Bosch and Lom, with contacts and stuff like that, or someone that just does like adult therapeutics or something like that. It was just weird. Like a lot of companies I don't really trade with that I know when you start going on healthcare, that's where I'm going to end up looking because I play the smaller caps. All right, go.
Sure. I'm back.
All
Sorry.
right, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I think we're kind of potentially maybe setting up for a pretty big move this week. Just I thought maybe we get more of like a sustained kind of market pump into all the numbers and data this week, but I mean maybe with the short week, I don't know. I mean Thursday did. I'm kind of particular on like some specific setups I look at, but it definitely shook up some of the tech setups, and tech really is very unbalanced right now, where it's really Apple and Microsoft kind of holding it up. There are a lot of other ones that have not been as good.
It's weird that like the big name, like the sasses are really standing out to me again. But I mean, they pulled most of them are pulled back to really good spot on the support. But
Yeah.
um, I have like those since you've been on those. I'm like, all right, I like a lot of these. Some of them long term I like, um, and they are definitely that just accumulation on support right now. Which for me is great because it gives me clarity on where and how to trade them. But again, the headwinds right now are still there. I mean, I don't think we're even halfway done through layoff season for those guys because a lot of those companies like would overhire just to keep the competition from hiring good employees, and I think that still has to flush out for them. Um, yeah, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just what I see on the tech
Yeah,
side.
and I think there's been a trend of on layoffs. There's like this initial pop, like that this is a cost saving measure going to be good for the stock. That kind of runs out though. I mean, at a certain point, it's not good to just keep letting people go, and it starts to um, weaken the stock a bit. So I think that's an aspect of it to watch as well.
The only thing that helped the bottom line on the tech layoffs is if it's management.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're so overly compensated. But if it's just like your nuts and bolts employees, yeah, it's not a good thing in the long run, in my opinion. Um, yeah, and I think you're kind of seeing that now um, with like the bigger names. They're on a quarterly cut. It seems like, to be honest.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely.
What Fed notes? I got minutes on Wednesday. What else do we got coming this week?
Oh, let me call up the calendar here.
My real quick search yesterday was just that we had minutes on Wednesday. What else are we gonna run into?
Um, we've got CPI on
Oh, okay.
Wednesday, consumer price index, core
Yep.
CPI, year over year, all that stuff. PPI is the next day
The producers.
on
Okay.
Thursday. Yeah, and then Friday's retail sales, some Fed speakers here and there.
We're gonna test my theory because I said it last week and I'll say it again. The market's slowly not giving a crap about that. Um, I mean, before
Yes.
we were getting
Yeah.
these violent candles on that news if it didn't line up, let's say 8 months to a year ago. And I think we're slowly getting to where, I mean, it'll move. It might move certain things, especially if it's affected certain things. But like a market as a whole, I don't see us flushing anymore. It's it's stepping away from that. It does care about the rates and the banks, I think more, but just your average everyday numbers. It's not priced in, but it's overpriced in. So it really doesn't care unless it's super, super bad. And we've been pretty flat on a lot of these numbers or in line. Um, and I mean, that just might be my bias, but that's where I see.
Yeah, and I mean I do trade the downside quite a bit. I maybe I don't know 30% of my trades are puts. Puts through data are just that's not working because even when it's bad and you get a kind of gap down pre-market, you get that recovery. So the best thing to do is to just really short a really aggressive rip to the upside, and then you get a pullback, and then sometimes you get the pullback and the breakdown. But to the pullback alone, you're green on the position. Don't let it go red, and you can try to have some of it, catch a breakdown in the stock, and that's really how I trade end phase all the time. But it works for QQQ and all that too. But yeah, I mean, chasing a pre-market move to the downside, thinking we're going to get continuation and see SPY go down 3% or something, it's not happening. I don't care how many Elliott waves or whatever people want to draw on SPY charts. It has to be something, some real world economic catastrophe has to take it down, and it's not going to be your report on the calendar that's going to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, my favorite Twitter chart is the ABCD with
That's the
the
one. Yeah,
yeah
yeah,
with the big down like. I mean,
yeah, yes,
I pray the chart sideways for people because it just blows that up, right? Like this range bound, like which SPY is right now. I'm my SPY levels up on vid, and I'm 430, 370. I mean, it's a $60 window. It's over 10%, but I guess that would be 15. But it's we're stuck there. We are literally stuck there, and we might be stuck there for 6 more months. And it just kind of kills anybody trying to call a pattern breakout or like you're saying, some Elliott wave or fib thing. I don't know. Just not really trading the chart, not understanding TA, and kind of one dimensional picking something to confirm your bias. That's kind of how I see those. Um, they're fun to read though. I think I enjoy those just as much as you.
yeah, yeah.
Because I try to stick with the dirty TA. That's what I call it. I mean, try to keep it simple so it's easy to learn. It's not overwhelming for people. And again, finding true support and resistance works for me on the share side. But some of that stuff is like that don't make no like that makes no sense.
Well, the approach to SPY, or especially SPX, from a swing trader perspective, I'm just thinking like, okay, so you're either trading this on paper or you're so far out of the money that you're going to lose even if you're right.
Yeah,
And because to swing trade SPY responsibly, is that in the thousands of dollars, in my opinion, because you have to, because you'll get shaken out if you go too far out of the money. You'll just um, you're just not going to make it. So you kind of have to start the position fairly close to the money, which is very expensive. So I don't think a lot of them are actually really doing that.
yeah, no, I agree. To jump to the normal topic of the conversation in this
Yeah.
group, I I think well, I'm going to lead it with a statement, but I think it affects what we're going to talk about. I think if we have major downside, it's going to be this Taiwan thing that's going on right now because that's getting really hot in the news. But I
Yeah.
do think that pushes oil back to a place where I mean maybe not those high numbers, but I bet we test 100 again if we do go into a situation where we're I guess fighting China in Taiwan, which it's looking like we're at least posturing towards that right now. So yeah, I'm curious on how you feel about both of those.
Yeah. So I think so oil doesn't have to go past recent highs for Exxon and Oxy to bust through all-time highs. Or I don't know if it's Oxy's all-time high, but Oxy's whatever, like the recent high on Oxy, because the relationship between the oil prices and the stock prices have been more resistant to that big pullback than was with like the oil prices. So a move back to, it doesn't have to go to 120. If it goes to 100, you're going to see oil take that big next leg up. And I completely agree that I think that's going to happen. I think we're kind of heading there anyway, but that would definitely give a kind of jolt to the upside. And then yeah, I would agree that that could be a big downside catalyst. I think the actual Fed pivot, when it actually does happen, is going to be a big jolt down in the market, but then it'll recover pretty quickly from that. So that's definitely something I'm looking for as well.
Yeah, we're only $12 off. I mean, I guess it's 30%, but we're over $12 off that Oxy high, and I totally think that's one that will break the high this year if we do get oil prices back in the 100 or go to war, a second war for me. Um, Oil in general, though, I've always had the thesis. Even before I met you, I would play Gush going into the summer, and we're setting up for. I mean, I've seen it before. We're setting up for this to kind of have a run to the north on the bet. I mean, we're 81 again. I can't believe we were in the 60s, but yeah, we went right back to 81. And my range has always been, since I met you, that 72 to like 85. That's kind of where we are, and we're gonna test the top of that here real soon, in my opinion. And then where we go from there, especially with OPEC kind of throwing a wrench in the game. Um, for me, I've seen it before because I watched it last year.
Yeah.
As you played it perfectly. But this time I'm way more prepared, and it's the writing for me is just kind of on the wall with those guys. Um, Glad I know all the
Uh,
names now
yeah,
too.
and what I really see with oil a lot is I see a lot of consistency in the flow on the big names, and then they just kind of they start looking for opportunities in these small and mid caps, and they're not the small and mid caps that are like the really crappy penny ones, which do have a lot of good opportunities, but they're just the really quiet ones that don't get a lot of option activity, but the companies actually do have a lot of money, and
Yeah.
most of them are exploration stock. So I've been on a lot of those, and that's where you start to get the alphabet soup of of new names coming into collabs sometimes. So a lot of those are you know WTI and like OBE and things like that. I see a lot more activity there in recent months.
Yeah, I bumped that. I was not proud of it, but I was happy that I got the learning experience out to people. I bumped a post from January, February, March, like May last year of the poopy energy stocks.
Yeah,
And they all had a really good day, but I mean, that's just knowing, like just having lures in your toolbox and knowing where to go when conditions are right. And as soon as I seen the oil perk up above 80 or start testing 80, I was like, all right, these should run. And we did get a couple good days in those. But yeah, they're everything has range. It's just how long is it's going to last, and the bigger names, are going to last a little bit longer than the poopy pennies. But
yeah,
you do get that rig every now and again that does never come back, and that's one thing I do like about pennies. Um, there's a couple I don't want to mention
yeah.
it.
Rig, our original entry with Rig was great, and then it had that big pullback and sort of gave people one more chance at it,
Yeah,
and then just took off from there.
yeah. No, you're scalping pennies now. You had a good call on that though. That was going back to 7, and it totally did. Um, there's more of them, and that's why I play that side. I do have a few names that I'm looking at right now. We've been on them, but those for me like are the beneficials of the bigger moves, which are the bigger plays, which are safer in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Well, let's predict spy and get out of here. It
All
is
right.
a holiday. I know we haven't said anything
Yeah,
about that, but it is a holiday. Do want to kind of get through this. I'm gonna go first because I'm claiming the victory because I was $4 under you. So
yeah.
um, I don't think we're gonna have much downside. So I'm again, and I'm gonna stay with my TA side instead of just market biased. But that 405 stood on its head, so I'm gonna go a dollar under that. 404 on the week, and then I really think we're gonna test this. I'm just gonna pull it from last week. I think we're testing that top, so I'm gonna go 416 again. I like the 416 for me on the TA side. That's a big spot to get to and then through. And I think that we'll have to do that before we do get up into the 420s.
All right, very good. Pretty close on downside. I got 403 on that, and I'm gonna say 418.
Okay, so we are tight.
Still seeing a lot of strikes up there. Could briefly touch 420 if things go well. So
Yeah, you're the
kind of
bull
run it.
this week. You're the bull, not me this week.
Yeah,
I'm.
yeah, um, yeah. It's just I don't know. I mean the earnings or the bank earnings and all that. I think might actually surprise. There's a lot of expectation they'll be bad, but and they might be bad, but that actually doesn't mean that doesn't say anything about how the stock's going to react.
Sure.
So
Yeah, no, a lot of that downside is priced in with those. For me, what
yeah,
the big thing I'm noticing across the board, maybe it's amplified in what I trade, but even if there is a move, the market makers are in control because there's not enough volume. They're just
yeah,
they just keep it inside the box. I've been saying that a lot lately. It's really hard to get outside of the box on anything, and I don't think that I think we need a world event to bring volume back into the market, and we're just the world events aren't really good right now. And we got taxes coming up, so people got to pay those too. So I just don't see money flowing out or money flowing in like it should. And yeah, again, that might be my bias because of the penny side, but the market makers, the institutions, they really are in control right now.
yes, yeah, they definitely are. And intraday, you see that. You see Pock and Goose and I kind of joking about that all day about we hit some kind of arbitrary number in SPX, but it's not arbitrary in the sense that there's this concentration of options right there, and that that's gonna be where they're gonna bounce it. So it's I mean it's just sort of silly, the precision of it, and it's not always like this, and it is because of what you're saying with the volume being lower. That they when the volume's high, they don't have that much control over it, where they can just park it and turn it around. But that's what's happening a lot, and you have to be aware of it. If I try to trade stuff that actually doesn't react to that as much.
Yeah.
And end phase, I always talk about end phase, but it's one that doesn't. End phase is going to kind of do its own thing. Snow, interestingly, is a lot more resilient to movements in tech than you might think it would be. Where it just has they have a spot they want to move that, and they're just going to do it, regardless of what's going on. It's kind of like a rubber band. Like it'll stretch out a bit.
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah, it's going to pull back down with the market, but it can run further than something that's just more directly attached.
Yeah,
So
those guys on Wall Street that show up on the market floor, and those guys in the office back at Citadel, BlackRock, Vanguard, all them people, they have a monthly goal. They have goals to make. Like they need to make. I mean, it's a small percentage, but they're on a percentage goal. They get more money if they go over, so they do whatever they can, to buy for $1 and sell for two. Um,
yeah,
I mean, and when you realize that they're not like buying and holding like an investor, um, it changes your perception a little bit on how stocks move because sometimes range bound for them is profitable, and and I guess learning that and that's where the psychology each stocks come in. Like learning the psychology each stock to me is very important because you can figure out kind of what they're doing, and then you just make money with them.
yeah, right. And these kind of like the early morning, first move might be some big spike, then it drops, and it kind of ends up, closing the day up 0.7% or 1% or something like that. If you're an investor, you don't even notice all that crap. But all of those movements like that intraday, that's all of that. These funds just kind of moving things around, hitting strikes on options, repositioning, all of that. So yeah, it's manipulated. Of course, it's manipulated, but you just have to You have to be aware of that. You have to be aware that you as a trader don't mean a whole hell of a lot to any of this, and you are just trying to follow the people that do, the people that actually do move it around. So that's why I even care what whales are doing, as
Yeah,
trying to anticipate where their moves are going to take things.
yeah, no, and I say that about unusual whales and you all the time is like it's not that you can just like find abnormalities or consistencies in the flow. It's that you kind of understand what they're trying to do with that. Like you know the story by the strikes
Yeah,
and you kind of figure out how that plays into it. And then why is that important? Because you can anticipate a move. I mean, it's that
yeah,
simple. It's because it's not just, oh look, they bought calls up here. Well, sometimes they're just trying to get people to buy those to make money because they're going to be worthless in a week. Like they don't care about that. So um, it's just
oh yeah, and you know,
interesting to
coin
me.
is the perfect example where they'll try to entice people to the upside, but you can spot the trap, at the calls 5-10 bucks above that. Like when, 70C tips a little bullish, probably not actually going to hit 70. It's going to hit 68, and then it's going to reject. But on the way up, they're like getting people to pile into 70C and then even 80C or whatever, and all those are just going to be worthless. People are down 50% 5 minutes after they buy those.
Except for them.
Yeah.
um, awesome, well, let's get to the DD Discord session. Get to work here. If you're all right with that.
Okay.